It's really nice to see that we got two lines of Leomon support in EX5, one being the BanchoLeomon line and the other being HeavyLeomon line. So we're going to put all of them together to make a deck and see how it works for today. Alright, starting with the Digi-Egg cards, I'm opting in for FORTITUDE for my main Digi-Egg, just because it's when attacking once returned. If this Digimon has Leomon in its name, you get to draw one. Very great generic egg draw power that I can always have and that you can always need. So yeah, therefore I'm running for this one as my main egg. Let's now talk about our rookies. We got 4 copies of Leomon here, Digivolving on top of FORTITUDE for 0 cost, which is really good. And being able to have that on-play effect, you get to review the top 5 cards of your deck. You get to add 1 card with Leomon and its name among them to your hand, and you get to bottom deck the rest. So being able to dig really deep and find certain pieces for Leomon to sort of like search is really, really fantastic. And it has that on deletion inheritable. You de-digivolve one of your opponent's Digimon, which there's a lot of on deletion effects that racks up for this particular guy right here, which is kind of interesting to see in a sort of like green based deck. Next we have Leomon here, also Digivolving for 0 on top of FORTITUDE, and it has that on play, searching your security stack to add 1 Digimon card with Leomon and its name to your hand, and then if you did add something, you get to recover. So also a really good alternative way to find pieces. Being able to access your security stack to find certain pieces is always really good because you get to have access to a different realm of resources that most decks don't. It has that on deletion. One of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 2000 DP for the turn, so pretty neat when it comes to that as well for when it comes to being threatened. Then we have 2 copies of Leomon right here, which can have the on-play effect of revealing top 3, adding yourself like a beast, animal, or sovereign other than sea animal in its traits in the hand. Essentially, you can grab almost anything in this deck when it comes to the archetype because they're all mainly beast related, which is really good. And you place the rest of the back to the bottom, and then it has the inheritable, giving extra 2000 DP as long as this Digimon has beast or animal or sovereign in its traits. So kind of nice to have, but we're generally going to be hard playing this most of the time just because it doesn't really synergize with our Digivolving effects as much when it comes to the alternative Digivolution conditions. But that's it for our level 3s. Now let's talk about our level 4s. 3 copies of Leomon right here. It can Digivolve for 2 costs on top of Leomon or Leomon for 2 instead. Otherwise you have to pay 3 to Digivolve on top of a black or green Digimon. Essentially, it has a when attacking, this Digimon can Digivolve into a Digimon card with Leomon in its name from your hand for reducing cost by 1, which is kind of neat when it comes to that. And then it has that on deletion, de-Digivolve 1 as well, just like what Leomon does there too. Then for another Leomon, we're playing 2 copies of the BT14 Leomon here. This guy has an effect of when attacking, if it's attacking a Digimon with higher DP than this particular Digimon, this Digimon can Digivolve into a level 6, directly warping into a Leomon in its name from your hand for the cost of 6, ignoring its Digivolution requirements. It's kind of neat. It comes in clutch in some situations, and you can surprise your opponents with a sudden attack, and then you go into your big body level 6 all at the same time. Really powerful there. And then with the inheritable of your turn, while this Digimon has Leomon in its name, it gains extra 2000 DP as well, giving that DP power is going to be fantastic to ensure that it can swing over that Digimon as well there. Then to round off for our level 4s, well, not all the level 4s, just more Leomon specific ones, we have 3 copies of Leomon right here, Digivolving for 2 costs on top of Leomon or Leomon. It has one when attacking, also letting you Digivolve into a Leomon for reducing the cost by 1 as well, going to your level 5s, which is kind of neat as well. Its rule name is also considered as Leomon at all times too. It has that on deletion, just like Leomon, minus 2000 DP to one of your opponent's Digimon too. Then last but not least, to round up for all the low 4s, got 2 copies of Arbomon. We do play a handful of green Tamers, so we want to go for hybrid for games sometimes, which is always kind of nice to have it every now and then as well there too. Since we're talking about Leomon, do you guys know we're also going to be getting like newer Leomon type of support? We're going to be getting a new Chaosmon that can actually like DNA Digivolve alongside with BanchoLeomon and Darkdramon as well in BT16 Beginning Observer. So definitely going to be covering that as well if you're fans of that particular Digimon and the whole Leomon engine. Really interested in see how we can make it work. So definitely be sure to subscribe, turn on the notification bell to stay tuned. And if you want to see early deck lists just like this one in general as well, definitely join the AVAULT Club, and I really appreciate the support. But let's continue with our level 5s. We got 3 copies of GrapLeomon. GrapLeomon can Digivolve for 3 on top of any Leomon in its name. Otherwise, Digivolve on top of a level 4 that is black or green. It has Fortitude. Fortitude is a new keyword essentially introduced in this set from EX5. What it does is when this Digimon with Digivolution cards is deleted, you get to play this card back from the trash without paying its memory cost. So it comes back out, which is kind of neat and has a lot of synergy you guys can see when it comes to on-deletion effects that help out as well to give you maximum amount of value. As on play when Digivolving, you have to return one of your opponent's Digimon with 4000 DP or less back to the bottom of the deck, which is really good. And then Inheritable gives your Leomon piercing as well. So really good applications. I really like the removal when it comes to GrapLeomon overall, which is why we play it as well. Then we got 3 copies of LoaderLeomon, which is essentially almost similar. It itself has Fortitude 2. It can Digivolve for 3 on top of any Leomon as well. And being Fortitude lets you have that on play or when Digivolving effect so that one of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 3000 DP until the end of their turn too. And then otherwise, its Inheritable is opponent's turn. While the Digimon has Leomon in its name, it gains blocker for defensive applications, which is kind of nice to handy to have as well. So I'm going for the 3 and 3 split. That's because I'm saving the 2 extra slots in the end to actually play 2 copies of Leomon Ace. If you guys seen my staple videos where I talk about these Ace cards, there's actually very generic usage when it comes to this. You can always surprise your opponents, suspend something down that your opponent has, and bottom deck their 5000 DP or less Digimon that is suspended as well, which is always going to be fantastic to give them a surprise when it comes to sort of ace cards and blast acing against your opponents so that when they don't respect it and can come out with surprises too. But that's it for level 5s. Let's talk about our level 6s. 4 copies of HeavyLeomon right here. Well, this is the main boss Digimon of the deck that we're mainly focusing and trying to get into. It does cost 5 to Digivolve, but if you Digivolve on top of a Leomon in its name, it's only for 4 costs instead. Now it has Fortitude, so it has that floating capability when it comes back and synergizes very great with all your on-deletion Inheritables. When Digivolving and on-deletion, you de-Digivolve one of your opponent's Digimon, and you get to return one of your opponent's Digimon that's 6000 DP or lower back to their deck. So once again, being able to bottom deck something that's a little bit bigger is always going to be really nice. And it has an end of attack effect of once per turn, you get to return one of your opponent's Digimon with 4000 DP or less back to the bottom of their deck as well. And if you didn't, you get to unsuspend this Digimon so they can make another attack again for aggressive plays. And really cool card. Really happy it came out because HeavyLeomon looks really cool. Definitely one of my favorites in the entire Leomon line. So really glad to see this card right here. Then for our secondary one, we're actually running 1 copy of BanchoLeomon. It's just kind of nice to get into it every now and then. It costs 3 with its alternative Digivolution condition to go on top of any like level 5 Leomon essentially. Or when this card would be played from the hand, if there's 6 or fewer total in both players' security stack, you get to reduce this by a 5 play cost, making it 7. So to play Omega like that with its on play and Digivolving effect, you get to suspend one of your opponent's Digimon. And then it has a secondary effect where all turns once per turn, when any Digimon becomes suspended in general, you can have one of your opponent's Digimon get minus another 4000 DP and security minus 1 until end of their turn as well. So it kind of comes a clutch, kind of unique every now and then when you need to. But as our third level 6 that I like to save room for, like I mentioned earlier, when it comes to like blast acing and sort of surprising the opponents, I actually like to run 1 copy of this Rust Tyrannomon Ace just because it's so generic. You can potentially surprise suspend all your opponent's Digimon with DP less than or equal to it. And when you take down your opponent's Digimon, you get to trash their security stack, which is very great generic effects overall. And again, really good ace card to round off for the deck there. Then last but not least, I like to fit in the level 7, and since we're playing green, makes sense to have at least 1 copy or even 2 copies of Quartzmon just because of how strong it really is to really utilize off this deck so it can Digivolve on top, you know, to suspend down everything and sort of beat down the opponent from there on as well, potentially trashing security cards too. That's it for all of our Digimon. Let's talk about our Tamers. We're actually playing 3 copies of Taiga right here. Taiga giving you extra DP buffs to all your Digimon with flat out extra 1000 DP during your turn is fantastic. And when you Digivolve into like a green Digimon that's level 5 or higher, you get to suspend this guy to reduce the cost by 1 to help you sort of turbo Digivolve and sort of reduce the play Digivolve cost is always going to be really neat as well. That's why I really like this card when it comes to most green decks. And then for our choice of memory tamer, mainly it's just also just going to be Mimi to start our memory at 3 at every turn, but also being able to hatch an egg or even push out from the breeding area as long as we have a level 5 or higher Digimon can give us a lot of momentum. Just again, a really good generic tamer to have for sure. And maybe in the future, we might just get like a dedicated Leomon tamer as well. That would be really nice to see down the road. But as we continue our options, 4 copies of Agility Training, just a really good, fantastic staple. We're building our stack. We're Digi-evolving a lot in this deck anyway, so therefore this is definitely the go-to main green staple when it comes to options. And then also 2 copies of Green Memory Boost for the same kind of idea when you want to search a bit deeper and gaining memory back for more plays too. Now for really spicy stuff that we got inside here that works out very nice in this deck. We actually play 2 copies of Final Zubagon Punch because it actually synergizes very nicely with HeavyLeomon. We mainly want to use this option card when we have HeavyLeomon because it is a black option card, so you do need a black Digimon, and HeavyLeomon counts for that. So for the 2 costs, your HeavyLeomon is going to gain extra 3000 DP, and it's going to reach that 16,000 DP threshold, so it's going to gain Reboot, Blocker, and Security +1 until the end of opponent's next turn. And then you guys can see that you can potentially go for a big one-shot combo for 4 checks on the opponent's entire security if you're able to unsuspend your HeavyLeomon as well, all at the same time, which is absolutely insane, and it really helps you pull off those crazy attacking combos. Then for removal type of options, I actually play 1 copy of Flashy Boss Punch right here. While you have a Digimon with Leomon or Bancho in its name, you get to ignore its color requirements for 8 costs. It suspends one of your opponent's Digimon, and then one of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 12,000 DP for the turn as well. And then one of your Digimon with Leomon or Bancho in its name can also attack afterwards. So you can do a lot of removal, which is kind of neat. You can attack into the suspended guy, you can minus it as well and clear out another Digimon that your opponent has on the board. You know, really fantastic card I like to see every now and then. Security, it suspends one of your opponent's Digimon, and then one of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 12,000 DP for the turn as well. Really good removal, I think, personally. Then last but not least, for something similar, running Heaven's Judgment. Because we play a green base, if you have a green Digimon or Tamer, you get to use this card without meeting its color requirements anyways, and you get to minus like 6,000 DP to your opponent's Digimon, and then for every other color Digimon you have as well, you get to minus another 6,000, which is always a really good, you know, effect to sort of remove big things and multiple bodies all at the same time as my other removal tool of the deck. As for the deck profile, there's really not much tech choices I have personally, other than really just want to talk about like HPD here. I don't have enough room to include in the deck. If you don't want to play removal options and want to go for more turbo Digi-evolving, HPD is always just really good. But if you guys have any other ideas and suggestions, make sure to comment down below and let me know what you guys would also add into this deck to make it spicier too. Alright, combos and how to play the Leomon deck. As starting as a hand, you know, it is stack building, so you want to see cards that help you build towards your stack. Cards searching cards such as Agility Training, Green Memory Boost, and you do want to be seeing your rookies. Some of these that you might want to be hard playing to help you find and search more pieces because you want to see your level 4s and then your level 5s. And ideally, HeavyLeomon is your main level 6 boss Digimon that you want to get into. And this is how it's going to work, because depending on what you have during at the time, you definitely Digivolve accordingly. But let's just say you go through like the black route of things and Digivolve into ELECTMON and Digivolve into this Leomon, stacking up a bunch of D-Digivolving. Either works, honestly. You can actually synergize a lot between the yellow stack, like this, with the black stack right here. Now, of course, you're not going to build in your raising. Depending on the situation, you know, once you have your Leomon established, you sometimes want to move it out. And depending if you feel like, if you're strong enough, you might be swinging at your opponent's Digimon or something, you can swing into Leomon, and then Leomon can Digivolve into either GrapLeomon or LoaderLeomon for reduced cost of 1, so you pay less. By going into GrapLeomon, you can bomb deck your opponent's Digimon on the side, and you might swing over that. By going to LoaderLeomon, when Digivolving, you get to minus 3,000 DP to one of their Digimon, so you might be able to swing over that, something like that. I don't really like to swing the security until I get into HeavyLeomon, just because it can be kind of risky, but that's kind of how you want to play it generally anyways. But eventually, once you go into GrapLeomon, if you have your Green Memory Boost and Agility Training, you want to use that to help you get into your level 6s. Of course, during some course of the time, you might want to be playing your Tamers, Taiga, and Mimi as well to help you set up so that you can give more value when it comes to like Digivolving, especially with Taiga. You can Digivolve into HeavyLeomon, suspend Taiga to reduce the cost by 1. And once you get into HeavyLeomon, you're going to D-Digivolve 1 on your opponent's Digimon. And by D-Digivolving 1, then you get to bottom deck a 6k or lower. And then you basically kind of clear their board. Now what you do next is then you just want to swing and attack with HeavyLeomon as soon as you have like it set up on the board. Because once you set it on the board, when it's end of attack, if you bottom deck one of your opponent's Digimon that's like 4,000 DP or less, then great. If you don't, you get to unsuspend and make another attack as well again, which is really good. And it also has piercing too at the same time. Now this is really nice because Freemon lets you draw a card. If you have loaded Leomon instead, you get blocker. But now with this entire stack, if it ever gets in threat in terms of like getting deleted, you get to utilize your Fortitude and your on deletion effects. This is kind of like a purple deck, which is kind of cool for a green base, like I mentioned earlier. So let's just say your opponent just deletes it, like, you know, takes it down by battle or whatever. A bunch of stuff is gonna happen. Ideally, what I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna use ELECTMON to D-Digivolve 1, use Leomon to D-Digivolve another one, so you D-Digivolve 2, and then this is when now you use the Fortitude to play the HeavyLeomon back from your trash with no sources, but you're allowed to play it back because it had sources prior when it was being deleted with Fortitude. And now with that, HeavyLeomon also gets that on deletion effect. So remember, very importantly, before you do play the HeavyLeomon back, use its on deletion effect to D-Digivolve 1 again on your opponent's Digimon. So with the combination of the black sources, you D-Digivolve 3 times on your opponent's Digimon, and then you get to bottom deck a 6,000 DP or less afterwards, which ideally you normally can by then, right? After D-Digivolving like a level 6, turning them back into a level 3, and then you bottom deck, or even if it was a level 7 to begin with, you can remove it that way, which is absolutely insane. Then now you remember to use Fortitude afterwards because you remember on deletion effects needs to be resolved in your trash. So when you play HeavyLeomon back out now, you have a body floating on the board and you can just do the same thing again the next turn and start attacking and then suspend for the aggression, just like that. Very, very simple. If it was the line of yellow sources instead, on deletion, you're minus 2k, you're minus another 2k, and maybe you might have minus enough DP by the point where you D-Digivolve afterwards on one, their DP might be low enough so that HeavyLeomon can also then bottom deck that same card as well. So really, really good floating capability, you know, very, very good. It's not very worried when it comes to being in threat. Of course, when you have Mimi, you want to hatch your egg whenever you can and get your momentum established again as well. And then here comes sort of like the spicy card. With HeavyLeomon being at 13k DP and black, this is when you want to use Final Zugon Punch and keep your turn. By keeping your turn, HeavyLeomon is going to gain extra 3k, security +1, reboot, and blocker. And if your opponent's board is clear, you essentially swing 2 checks with HeavyLeomon. If nothing gets returned to the bottom of the deck at the end of the attack, you unsuspend it, then you swing it for another 2 checks. And that's 4 checks in total, which is an absolutely crazy, bonkers, explosive combo that you can go for, which is really cool. And sometimes if you have enough memory, if your Tamers were unsuspended, you can go for hybrid for game, or if you had like a rookie on the side even to finish the game off, or you dealt enough damage already, the next turn, you swing twice again if they don't have another 4k body on the board, which is really, really insane and really, really good. And this is why sometimes like in flexible situations, I want to say like, you know, going into this Leomon is kind of nice as well because it can help you warp. Let's just say you went into this Leomon and then you have a Leomon here on the board. If you need to swing into your opponent's Digimon that's like kind of tough and beefy to deal with, you can swing this Leomon. You know, you might start your turn at 3 memory and your opponent might have a memory tamer, so you pay 6 in total and you immediately just straight up warp into HeavyLeomon right here from Leomon, which is really, really insane. And you get to use all the same effects all over again and swing over that Digimon. And then you get to unsuspend at the end of the attack as well, which is always going to be really nice because of that. And I do like this BT14 Leomon just for that matter, for those clutch situations as well. But other than that, this is also the reasons why I run Leomon Ace, just so you can surprise your opponents with like a hand trap if they don't expect it sometimes. Or even if you have like a loaded Leomon sitting here and if they try to attack, you Digivolve into Rust Tyranno on Ace. You know, these are surprises, really good generic hand trap staples that you can sort of like play around and juke out your opponents and outplay your opponents in those specific situations and scenarios. But other than that, it's very, very simple. You build your stack and you let HeavyLeomon do all the work from then on. And that's just how you really want to play with this deck generally. Of course, there's also BanchoLeomon, which you can sometimes get into. You know, when you Digivolve, you can do a little few things with it as well, which is kind of neat. Otherwise, you can hard play it as well, and then reduce its kind of hard play cost depending on how much security stack as well. That's how you want to do it. And then you get to minus suspend down your opponent's Digimon, also minus DP, minus security +1 as well. And eventually, sometimes in situations, if you really need to use like Correspond to seal the deal, you can then go into Correspond, suspend everything, and then swing for game, just like that. So very, very linear, very straightforward strategy. You build a stack, go into your level 6, let your level 6 do all the work, make sure you utilize Fortitude as much as you can, and then you can just beat down your opponents from then on. And like always, if you haven't done so yet, be sure to check out the AVAULT store to get yourself some awesome merch on there right now. As always, if you want to check out the gameplay video guide and learn more how to see this deck in action, be sure to watch it right here, right now as well. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. You guys have a great day, great night, wherever you are, and see you in the next video. This is AVAULT, signing